Hi, Leilani. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is a little different for both of us, but we're talking about grit. And one of the things that's come up a lot with grit and the grit camps is people wanting more information, more detailed information. And humans nowadays don't really like reading enormous guides. We have, I think it's a pretty good guide that goes over the camps and how they work. But I wanted to just do this as an introduction and hopefully answer some questions people might have if they want to be a host of a camp, if they want to potentially be a mentor at a camp, that sort of thing. So that's what we're here doing.
Great.
So first question, what is a grit camp?
So, Grit Camp is basically going into communities across the country and introducing youth to the skilled trades. And the way that we do that is recruiting current tradespeople to be mentors to the students. And they go through a series of modules with the student and introduce hands on activities that revolve around the skilled trades.
So a lot of people, one of the first questions is what skilled trades are involved. So what trades are we covering here?
Currently, we have safety. It's always first. We were always big on safety first, and then we do carpentry, electrical, brazing, plumbing. So they get to do torches and
Cutting PVC,
yeah, and
fitting together
yeah,
PVC
connecting
and
copper
copper.
to
Yeah.
PVC, along with disassembly. So you taking apart HVAC components and having discussions around that.
Yeah. So you get to use a wide range of different tools. You get to use saws. You get to use a torch. You get to use PVC cutter, which is always a really popular one.
And even right from the beginning, they actually learn how to read a blueprint, which a lot of kids have never actually been exposed to a blueprint. So that's kind of a fun way to start such a basic concept for people that have been in the trades for generations, or in construction. But the blueprint's awesome, and the mentors actually love the blueprint too because there's not all the answers are on the blueprint, but it's a hint. It's like a guide to throughout the day that they get to reference.
Yeah, and there's some areas that they can fill in a few things here and there. Also, we provide a 6-in-1 screwdriver, which is one of my favorite parts because they get to pull it apart and see the different bits and how that works.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a me thing because when I first got into the trade, I thought that was so cool when I first got to use my first 6-in-1 screwdriver. All right, so when a company or organization raises their hand and says we want to do a great camp, what are they actually committing to?
So grit does one thing that we really want to reiterate to potential hosts is grit provides some structure, but we really want the host to take ownership of this event because the host is going to be responsible for recruiting students from their community, finding tradespeople that want to mentor, and it's often direct connection to the host or the company. So grit doesn't, we don't do that for you, but we want the host to take ownership of that because this is something that is more impactful from a community standpoint. So this is your event, it's your community, and it's the people that you choose to bring into the space. So it's a good amount of work on that end.
Yeah, and I think it's important for hosts to understand that they really control. We may have some mentors who we bring to the table who have previously done it or who are interested, but ultimately it's up to the host to decide who's going to mentor and what students are going to be there at the camp. And I think that it's important to recognize that so that way you get ahead of it.
I would like to maybe we could go through the roles of what different roles are involved at a camp so that when we say mentor, not everybody
Yeah.
knows what that means. So why don't we start
Yeah,
with
let's
that?
start with that. Yeah, let's talk about the different roles. So let's start with the host and the different
So
roles as a host.
So as a host, you're either a company or a contractor, for example, that want to host a grit camp. And you may or may not be involved in the mentorship of the modules, but you're definitely responsible for the event. And then we have a host facilitator that we encourage the host to have somebody that can be a point of contact for a grit admin, as well as somebody who can interact with the students and interact with the mentors that you recruit. And then somebody who's going to be gathering and resourcing the materials and the tools needed. So the host is also responsible for much of that. And so we have the host facilitator, then we have the mentor, which is a skilled tradesperson, somebody with experience in the field. They don't have to be years and years of experience, because we also provide mentor training and mentor course for this specific event. But a mentor is a skilled tradesperson. And then we have the students, who are kids between the ages of 12 and 17. That's our recommendation. We also have volunteers. So the host can have people that want to participate in the event without having to take the responsibility of mentoring a student.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about what the host needs to provide, what they need to be prepared to do, versus what Grit is going to provide.
So the host would provide a space, first of all, like where we can come in and do this event. Typically, we're a little bit flexible on that. It could be indoor, outdoor. Preferably, it is a little bit of both. You want good ventilation. You want a space where people can gather and eat and build electrical circuits outside of the weather. So, if it's a rainy day, you want a place to be able to get away from the elements. So the host provides the facility. The host provides obviously the participants of the camps themselves, and they're also responsible for, we have a good list that the host provides materials. And a lot of the stuff that we use in our modules are things that contractors are using every day. It's plywood, or it's 2x4s, copper, PVC, glue, different components around that. But it is a lot, and it's very specific. So the host is responsible for gathering those materials, but we have them laid out for you in our guide of how much you would need of each thing. And you also provide and plan for a lunch to feed everybody at your event. And that could be up to 30 people. And so the host is also responsible for that.
Yeah. So Grit provides resources, deadlines, organization, registration forms, background checks, all that. Go through some of those most important things that Grit provides.
So our first most important thing that we are requiring is that we have a Grit video course that's all about mentorship. It's also based around our camp modules. So any mentor that is recruited for your event has to complete that course, and that makes them certified. Whether they have 10 years of experience, 1 year of experience, they are required to take this course. And one of the reasons why is because it's all about mentorship, and it's very helpful to prep for the day and be more prepared. And you want to do these activities with students safely and make it impactful for the students. So in order to have a positive experience for both the mentor and the student, we do require that course to be taken. Once you confirm an event, we have a process for running a background check on every mentor. And these background checks are mostly for the safety of the students. We're not worried about if some traffic violations, things like that come up, that's not gonna be a problem. You're not gonna be driving. So we don't consider that something that you can't, if you don't pass that part of it, it's okay. Yeah. And then you are responsible for required to go through our modules. We have guides for them, but as well as in our video course, they tie to that. So it makes a lot of sense when you do both.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that has come up pretty regularly is that everybody's busy. The hosts are busy. The mentors who are being recruited may be excited, but they're still busy. So there's a lot of initial excitement. But I think the thing that we're finding is that if you settle in, give yourself time, take the courses, get prepared, then it's going to be a much better experience. And there's going to be a lot less panic when it's time to actually do the camp. And I think for the mentors especially, if let's say that somebody's an air conditioning technician, they may be very comfortable with torches, but they may not be comfortable as much talking about saws and how to cut, which side of the line to cut on, and different types of lumber and all that. Whereas if somebody's a carpenter, they may be very comfortable with that side, but they may not have really done any brazing or soldering in the past. If you go through these modules and you watch the videos and you go through the guide, especially the Mentor Quick Start Guide, you're going to be much more capable of doing these things. These are all things that a professional tradesperson will be very competent at if they've taken the course. And I think
Yeah,
it's very
and our
important that they
course
do
is
that.
really, it's done in small bites, like small sections. You don't have to commit to sitting for 2 hours and taking it in one sitting. You can stop and go and do it in whatever amount of time you need to take. But our video course is great because it's Ty Brannaman is going through everything. It's very relatable, and he's working with a student, and Bryan and him are talking through every module. So it's just it's a great course to take, even if you don't know when you're going to do a camp. It talks about the Socratic method, and it's just a good source for any tradesperson, regardless of becoming a mentor at a camp.
I want to talk a little bit more about the space. You talked a little bit about the inside outside. This is one of the reasons why contractors tend to make really good partners, because contractors often have warehouse space that's large doors, easily ventilated, that kind of thing. That tends to make a lot of sense. If you don't have that, then pavilions can be great, or even tenting. If you're planning to do it outside, you want to have some shade, you want to have some all that sort of thing, because again, if you have weather, then you need to have a plan B there. Inside space is also nice for things like lunch and the electrical modules that we do, so the safety modules, that sort of thing. So just thinking through that. One nice thing about the camps is that they're not enormous in terms of the number of kids, so it doesn't have to be a huge space, but it does have to be safe. It does have to be well ventilated, and it is the responsibility of the hosts, because hosts are always going to be a business of some sort or association, to make sure that it is safe in those ways. And a lot of that's common sense, but some of it, you may need to really think through to make sure that it's going to be appropriate.
Yeah, and basically for the space that you need, you want to imagine setting up to 8 tables, fold-up tables or workstations, and they don't have to be any larger than a 6-foot table or something like that. But where 2 students and 1 mentor are at each station. So imagining up to 8. If you want to have a full camp, which would be 16 students, you want to have 8 stations. But you also could do a camp with 10 students. You have 5 stations. But between the stations and then having a space where everybody can sit and build their electrical circuits, so having seating for up to 16 people, you do not have to have mentors sitting down at that portion in those modules. They can kind of be standing around, walking around while the students work. So yeah, so just imagining that space for the safety training so that everybody's paying attention. And then I like to tell hosts, the table space is used 3 times in the beginning for safety, when Ty or another mentor or the host walks through safety. And then you move on into the station area, and then you go back to the seating area around lunchtime. Mm-hmm. And then also around the electrical module. So 3 times you want that space. And you can use those, you can move those tables, you can move the chairs around, but it's just, imagine going back to that space 3 times.
Yep. I just want to talk quickly through just the list of host-provided side of things versus GRIT's side of things. So GRIT's generally going to provide the GRIT Camp program and curriculum, host and mentor guides, planning resources and deadlines, which is really important, registration forms, host marketing materials to some degree. And again, that's going to continue to evolve as we go, and best practices around doing marketing.
Yeah, and we create those flyers for the mentors and the students so that the hosts can share them.
Absolutely. Mentor training requirements, which we talked about, the courses and the quick start guides and all that. Background checks and coordination of that. Student blueprints, which again, they're not blue, but they're plans and specs and give something to look at. Student PPE and hand tools, at least a few, not everything, but a few things. Badges and participant information. Email reminders for the registered families. Programming support before the camp. On-site program leadership when included in the camp agreement. So there's going to be cases where we provide that leadership, and then there will be cases, especially in the future, as we get more and more people involved, where that leadership may come directly from the organization who's acting as the host.
We have currently a few mentors that have attended a GRIT camp multiple times, and I will say a couple of them would be absolutely ready at this point, if they want to take Ty's role at different camps. So that's why we really encourage the host to take ownership of this, because these can be repeated by the host in the community over and over and over. And we can't travel to all of them. But now we get to expose more youth to the trades, more training for the mentors. And that's the scale effect that we would like anyhow. But we have a couple mentors that are so experienced at this point. They know the modules. They can walk through and support the host in a really strong way.
Post-camp surveys and follow-up resources also is something that Grit provides. And then the host is generally going to provide and is expected to be prepared to provide the local host facilitator, so somebody who's going to be our point person. And often it could be the person who's the leader of the business, who's excited about it, who's also going to do all the details. But for especially larger organizations, that's often not the case. So somebody who's going to be organized and detailed. We've had some really great facilitators throughout our camps, and it makes all the difference. The facility, as we've discussed, student and mentor recruiting. And that's one that I think a lot of people get surprised by, yes, you do need to reach out in your community and find people. Again, these camps are not huge, so it's not usually that difficult to find people who want to participate, but that is the responsibility of the host. And we can provide some ideas, but ultimately it's up to the host. Most of the tools and construction materials, the vast majority, tables and workstations, lunch and refreshments, local communication and community outreach, setup and cleanup, facility safety planning, photography or video support. And again, often we will provide some of that, but you can't count on us for that. It depends on who we have there.
And that is optional. If you don't want you don't want to pay a professional photographer, don't have a volunteer, that's not gonna make or break doing a camp.
Exactly.
It's just nice for your business to be able to share to the community what happened.
Yeah, someone to handle logistics during the camp, and that's again what we've talked about as far as the facilitator. So now let's talk about who owns the responsibility of the camp, or who's responsible for the camp within the host organization.
That would be the host and the host facilitator, and any volunteers that within your own business or within your family or community that you invite in.
So what would be the expectations as far as communication leading up to the camp with that person, whoever that key person
is? So that point of contact. So Abby and I currently do a lot of the back and forth communication between, it's usually the host or the host facilitator. Mm-hmm. So they are responsible for communicating with us about the deadlines. We provide very specific deadlines for you guys. And that is in order to kind of give you structure and to help you. And it really does make a difference when you at least stay within those timeframes. You're responsible to find the students, so, and we're going to know who signs up through our registration. So if it's getting close to the camp, say we are 4 weeks out and you only have 5 students, we're going to be emailing you and saying, hey, are we going to do this or not? You need to reach out, put your marketing materials out again, because, we'll be able to see. And a lot of hosts have said, oh yeah, we had a ton of feedback, but we're seeing who's signing up. And we also share that with the host.
Yeah.
So, you're going to be responsible, that we're going to be following you along in the whole process though. So the materials, the list of materials, those deadlines especially are important, that you want to have everything prepared for the camp and that you do have somebody ready to help set up. So we're going to be asking you those questions throughout, and you're responsible to communicate clearly with us on that.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is critical is, obviously the host is setting the date. And so you need to be thinking about, are you going to have time leading up to that date to be able to hit these different timeline benchmarks? Because if you aren't going to have the time, well, then let's pick a different date.
And that's what's great about this is if you're getting close to the camp and something came up even in your business where it just got too busy, we can just postpone. You that's the nice thing about not when you're committing, we can be flexible, especially if something if you're not prepared, we don't want to go forth with the date. Mm-hmm. And so we're not, you're not cemented into that if something comes up.
Yeah, so the facilitator is going to, again, be planning lunch, organizing setup, often sourcing materials, setting up photography if that's desired, making sure deadlines are met, and then ultimately solving any logistical issues with the camp. One question that I think is really common around the camps is, all right, so how many mentors should we get and how many students should we get? What's the sort of the minimum and maximum?
So the maximum students is 16. Minimum is up to you. We suggest that you have at least 10. But we've actually had a few camps where there was 5 to 7. They were amazing camps. But so up to 16. And our mentor student ratio is you are required to have one tradesperson, one mentor per 2 students. So you would need to have at least 8 mentors, and if you have a full camp. Encourage you to get one extra, a floater, in case somebody cancels last minute or something comes up. So
somebody has to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
whatever.
so you want to have 8 or 9 tradespeople ready to go, and you want them certified. So they've taken the course, they've signed up with us, we've gotten the background checks for them, they're ready to go. So yeah, eight tradespeople and 16 students.
All right, so I think the question is going to come up: if somebody is the facilitator, are they expected to do all of this, or can they delegate some of those responsibilities?
Oh yeah, you can delegate as long as if you, as a host or a host facilitator, you're just responsible that it happens, that the things get done. So you can pass off the materials list to, Joe at the warehouse, and he can take care of that for you. Or you can call in another volunteer to do the recruiting of the students. So in that way, you do have flexibility. You're able to pass off the responsibilities and tasks, and as long as they're getting done, it's a win.
As far as grit goes, when we have a representative, which is still going to be the vast majority of camps, we're going to have somebody there from grit. What is that person going to do? So that kind of program lead from grit.
So currently we have Ty, our head of training, attends every camp. He tries to get to every location the day before and connects with the host. All of this has been communicated via email with grit. So Abby and I are talking to the host about this. So Ty's not going to show up and you don't know that. You're communicating either with us or Ty. He shows up the day before. And if allowable, like if it's available, he wants to walk through the facility and just check that you have all the stuff you need, the locations, everything's set up in the way that it's going to work well, and then make some minor changes if there's something that Ty recommends, like, oh, we should probably put these tables over here instead. And Ty's really great about that. He also gives you the flexibility to, if you want to do it the way you want to do it, we're going to work with you on that. And then when camp starts at 9:30 a.m., typically that's the average time, 9:30 to 3:30 p.m. So it's about a 6-hour day. The following day, the mentors are required to show up an hour before the camp and walk through everything with Ty. So the host may have done it the day before, but the mentors come the morning of an hour before, and Ty just walks through the modules, asks if they have any questions, reminds them of the safety, and to be engaging with the students, to keep it a positive day, that it's not about perfection, it's about discovery, and then also get to connect with Ty. So that's a win for a lot of these tradespeople know Ty, and they get to actually be in person with him and talk to him a little bit before the day gets really busy.
Absolutely. So the program lead from Grit is not going to be doing the purchasing for you. They're not going to be doing the recruiting for you. They're not going to coordinate the food. They're not going to be responsible for photography, although they may take some pictures. They're not the facility manager. They're not making sure that the site is secure. They're not making sure that everything related to the fire side of things is secure. That's all the responsibility of the host to make sure that that's going to be safe. And again, a lot of people ask questions about well, what about insurance? What about our insurance? That is really up to the host. You have to know that this is going to be okay for you. And again, these sorts of things do work out, and it's all fine. But you do have to make sure you're doing.
And we do carry a liability plan, but it's very basic. The parents and every participant signs a liability risk waiver, and that is to protect the host and us. And it's specific to your location. So when you sign up, we do have everybody signs a waiver saying this host and this location is not responsible for anything risky that happens. So that is, and it is legal. So but it's not a it's still a risk, of course.
Right.
It is actually still a liability to have these events. So we want the host to know that.
Yeah.
But we do what we can to protect you
Absolutely.
and ourselves from that.
So talk a little bit about the timeline. How far in advance do we want a host to start preparing for the camp?
So this is flexible, but I will say from experience, give yourself 10 to 12 weeks. 3 months out is good. You could even estimate further out, but you're not going to really start any of the real planning until about 3 months up to the camp. And that gives you the time for the mentors that you pick to take the video course. It gives you time to, consider your space and figure out a good weekend for everybody. And then you really, about 4 weeks out, you want to start making sure that you have all the materials, that you're gathering them, you're putting them in your warehouse somewhere, or you at least have a plan of when you're going to get them, where you're going to put them. Everybody is required to be students are required to be signed up. We request them to be signed up about 4 weeks out, but are required to have all complete registration 2 weeks out so that we can make badges and send you student PPE and have time to know who's going to be there, because we do have to have some shipping time. And so honestly, like 3 weeks before the camp, everything should be set.
10 to 12 weeks is what we want beforehand so that you can confirm the facility, so that you can complete all the required host steps. You can go through any host training, host documentation, the guide, recruit students, recruit mentors, and get them through the course.
And background
checks. Completing mentor registration. Again, completing background checks, completing the Grit Mentor course, purchasing tools and materials, planning lunch, which we'll talk more about lunch, but that does require some planning. Organizing workstations gives us time to ship Grit materials, and addressing any facility or safety requirements or any questions around that, because sometimes questions do pop up and you want to get all of those answered. So what's the process around confirming a camp date?
So after going through our materials that are available and online, and you're like, yes, I want in on this, you email Abby or I at the Grit Foundation, and we send you a host interest assessment. You take that. It's like 10 questions just to make sure that you are ready to do this. Once that's confirmed, we send you a meeting link, and you have a Google Meet with me, and we walk through all the logistics again. And it usually takes about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much the host or I talks. But we walk through, and then if you are ready to confirm a date at that time, you are able to confirm a date. But we do want to encourage you or remind you that your mentors that you recruit are required to be certified before they go to the camp. So as long as you give yourself enough time for them to complete it, you can confirm a date. But a lot of times the host hasn't talked yet to all their mentors, so they're not sure about the date until they talk to the mentors. Mm-hmm. But once you confirm that, then you send us, the information, the logo that we need from you, and we can then add you to the registration, and we can start that process.
So it may be safer in a lot of cases to go ahead, talk to your mentors, get them signed up for the course, get them completely certified, get them background checked, all that, and then confirm the date.
Yes, that's the
safer way to do it.
And it's the most, it's the most impactful way. And then nobody's rushing or worried or, is this going to happen? Is everyone going to be there?
So what happens if a host needs to postpone or cancel?
Then we do that. And we communicate, because we have emails for all the students and the volunteers and the mentors. We just send an email out. You also, if you're in contact with these people, of course, you can talk to them yourselves. But all of the participants would receive an email from us and saying, apologizing for any inconvenience, but at this time it's postponed. And if the host is sure that they are going to still do a camp, it's just delayed, we'll share whatever the host wants us to share to the registrants.
How many students should you plan for a camp?
The max students is 16, but it's flexible. So we have had camps where we've had 7 kids, and we've had camps where we've had 16. They're both amazing experiences. So it's really up to you if you want to do a full camp, or if you want to keep it a little bit smaller, a little bit more one-on-one. The ratio for mentors to students is 2 students per mentor. So you need to have at least 8. If you have a maxed out camp for 16 students, you want to have 8 or 9 mentors as well. And it's nice to have one extra floater in case somebody has to cancel last minute. So 8 mentors, 16 students. But if you want to do 5 mentors and 5 students, or 10 mentor, you could actually do 10 mentors and 10 students. We have had a couple camps where they like the one-on-one versus 2 students to 1 mentor. So again, that's dependent on the host of how many tradespeople you can recruit.
So a lot of people bring up that it seems like a lot of mentors. So this is a lot of work, right? And yes, it is. And yes, it is. And yes, that's what makes it what it is, right? So those are the things that are kind of hard to describe until you experience the camp. But having that personal attention is really what makes Grit Camp special.
Well, and I think it's good to remember that anything that we invest in and have to sacrifice time and effort and resources actually brings more value. And this is one of those cases that it is a lot of work and it is an investment, but it is a very lasting and impactful experience, not only for the students, for the mentors. I would say, when we talk to the mentors after the camps, they are just as reignited to their trade and excited about the fact that they are able to even share knowledge to a student, let alone to the apprentice in the field. While it is a lot of work and it is an investment, it's very lasting impact. It's up to the host, but we encourage you, if you have a large company, so if you're a contracting business, HVAC company, construction, whatever industry, part of the industry you're in, a great and easy place to start is employees' children. And a lot of people say, oh, well, they're exposed to the trades already. You'd be surprised. Actually, I think all of us know we don't always teach our kids the things that we know. So employees' children are a great first start. If you're a smaller company and you want to do it out more into the community, we encourage you to go to schools or churches or any sort of community based organizations that have access to youth and say, hey, here's some marketing materials. Here's what we're doing. We want to get some students and reach out to the community. So there's a lot of different ways. And you could also do, families, relatives, friends, invite, your kids can invite a friend. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. But it does require a little bit of thought of how do I get that?
All right. So what happens if you don't have enough students, or if maybe some students don't show up the day of the camp?
We still have a great day. So honestly, if there's people that committed to coming and then they did not show up the morning of, we start the day with whoever we have there. And in a lot of cases, or not a lot of cases, but in some cases when maybe you have 8 mentors and you had 16 students sign up and now you only have 10, you just distribute the ratio a little bit different. Absolutely make sure that every mentor gets to have a student if you can, and just do more one-on-one. And that has been a very impactful and positive experience for smaller camps or things that change at the last minute. Grit is all about being flexible in those ways.
Yeah, and while we do not allow you to have more than 16 students to sign up, I encourage that if, say, your target is 10, well, then go ahead and sign up 12, something like that. So that way you have a little bit of flexibility. Don't sign up more than 16. That's definitely
well, and on our registration, it maxes out. So it's automatically, that's one nice thing. You don't have to worry about maxing out registration. We have that handled on our end. Right. And we stay in communication with the host or host facilitator, whatever point of contact we have, that, hey, you have 16 students, so don't share the link to anyone anymore because nobody else can sign up.
When you're letting people know about the camp and you're trying to get them interested in the camp for students, how do you go about getting them signed up?
Once everything has been confirmed on your end as the host, we create a couple of basic marketing materials for you. We have your logo on it. We have Grit. It's an engaging, colorful flyer. And we have one for mentors, and then we have one for students. And then we send that PDF to you, and you can share that online. You can print it and hand it out to people. You can put it up on Facebook. You can put it up on your business, channels. And then on that flyer is a point of contact, which would most likely be the host or the host facilitator. or, a volunteer who's going to be doing that interaction with the students. And it's either an email or a phone number. So they have to contact you, and then you can email them the registration link. And the link, you don't want to put the link out publicly because you kind of do want to target your students and mentors. So we encourage the host to put the flyers out as freely as you want. And on the flyer will be a point of contact for the students, parents, or the mentors to get a hold of you. And then they're going to provide their email in that way. And then you can send them the link freely, and then they can sign up there.
Yeah, that's the way for you to have a little bit more control and to not overdo it. But what happens if there is a lot more interest than available space? Let's say there's tons of mentors, tons of students, and it starts to get more than what you can handle. What do you do there?
So we encourage you to create like a waiting list, like a spreadsheet or something, where you can put those contact names. And honestly, if this is your first event, you don't know if you're going to want to do another one. But if you're really excited about this, or if it's your second one, you can say, hey, we're going to do another one in 6 months. So we'll put you on the waiting list. So that waiting list is, you can contact them when it's the next camp, but just communicate with the parents. Typically it's the parents for the students that you're communicating with. Just say, hey, we apologize. This is an exclusive event. We are already full, but if you could give us provide us with your contact, we will let you know if there's either another camp that we do or if there's another one in the area.
So who communicates with the registered families?
Grit, mostly. And the host, of course, if you know these people, you can do any sort of communication that you would like. But Grit, we have a lot of structures in place where once they sign up, they get a welcome email. They get reminders leading up to the camp about, what the students can or can't wear to the camp. We provide, or we require a few basic, closed-toed shoes, no loose hoodie strings, to get caught in anything. So Grit will be emailing the students' parents throughout the waiting period prior to camp, and getting reminders like a week before or 2 weeks before, and then a few days before that about the event, so that they're not forgetting about it.
Yeah. And the host is responsible to let us know and to communicate any sort of like site special situations, parking requirements, building entry details, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That has to be communicated by the host, obviously. So what is required of mentors?
So a mentor is required to become Grit certified, which they take our online Grit mentor course leading up to any camp that they attend. Mentors are required to go over any resources and materials that we send you in your email to help prepare you for the camp and to make better impact and just to have a better experience for yourself. Mentors are required to have a background check run on them. And mentors, we really want you to encourage taking on the mindset of what mentorship is. And that is positive reinforcement to students. It's about being engaging. It's learning how to ask questions instead of just telling students what to do and how to do it. And that is all referenced in our course and any of our materials. So it's super important to go through those materials, and you will be so much more prepared when the day arrives to how to engage with a kid,
And then you're also responsible to show up an hour before for the camp and go over everything with our staff and make sure that you're comfortable and prepared. Who makes a good mentor for Grit? So what sort of prerequisite experience should they have to be a mentor?
You want to have some field experience in the skilled trades, HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, whatever.
Even electricians.
Electricians.
We even allow electricians in.
Yeah.
It's a little joke. I started as an electrician, so yeah.
A good candidate for a mentor is somebody who believes that the skilled trade is meaningful work, that they are active in it in some way, shape, or form. And if you maybe you're retired from field work and now you're an educator, or you've retired and don't do field work anymore, it still is great. You could still be a Grit mentor. But you want to be somebody who believes that the skilled trades is valuable, and somebody who wants to share with the next generation about this, and also somebody who cares about learning and growing themselves as individuals.
Yeah, and we encourage you to look over the different tasks that we do, and Just you have to have some reasonable confidence that you can do those skills. It doesn't have to be something that you do every day or that you've done a ton of, but you have decent hand skills and you feel comfortable and confident doing it, and the ability to do it safely yourself.
And being patient, being patient throughout the day. It's 6 hours. It's pretty intense. You may be paired with a very timid student. Be ready to work with whatever type of personality you are paired up with. And sometimes you'll get an overconfident student, somebody who thinks they know how to do it and they don't want to do things safely, and they just want to go at it. You have to remind them of safety or hold them back sometimes, and being respectful to the other students around them. I would just say you want to have patience for that, because this is about discovering the trades. It's not about mastering it in one day. So just like if your student struggles the entire time, but you're letting them do the work and guiding them, it's still going to be a positive experience for them. So we want to remember that this is about discovery. It's about positive impact. So be prepared for things going a little bit sideways sometimes, and just being flexible.
One of the big questions, why is the mentor course required?
The mentor course is required because we really want this experience for you as the mentor and for the student to be impactful, to be a learning experience, and to be for it to be something that's positive. The mentor course is required because there's actually a lot of skills that are introduced that you as a skilled tradesperson may have not done some of these things in a while. So being prepared, we want you to be prepared, and we want you to go in with confidence to lead a student in throughout the day.
And what we've seen consistently is people who've taken the time to go over the resources and to take the course come in with a lot of confidence, and it just goes better. It's a much better day.
Yeah.
For people who kind of want a sense of how much time commitment a mentor has to have before they show up. So between taking the course and reading the materials and having their background check done and the registration, how much time should they set aside, or should they be willing to commit before the camp?
I would say up to 5-6 hours, focused dedication to our resources, and, the emails that you're going to receive, reading through those are pretty easy, to email, because you could do that while you're, on the phone and mobile. But yeah, dedicate at least 3 to 5 hours of poring over our materials, taking the course itself, the video course, and being prepared to show up an hour early. Those are significant investment for the mentor.
Yeah, and it's very much appreciated. We appreciate it. The students appreciate it. The hosts appreciate it. But I think the thing that mentors really need to recognize is that this 3 to 6 hours that you're going to spend is not time just dedicated to things you're going to be doing at this camp. These are skills that are going to help you be a good mentor and a good teacher for the rest of your career. So it's a really, really good thing for you to invest in, and very worthwhile. And I would encourage you to just take it seriously, take the time, budget the time, calendar the time to actually do it. And you're going to be very happy. Everyone who's taken the course, actually really gone through it, again, anyone who does online education, there's always that, I got to go through these slides, I got to go through these videos, whatever. But the ones who do it are always grateful that they've done it, because it does help.
Yes, and it is worth it. Grit is, as we are absolutely, supportive of youth being exposed to the trades, but Grit really was founded on the idea of mentorship. So mentors are what Grit's all about. Mentorship is what it's about. So you as a mentor, I think taking it seriously and seeing that there is value in this, not just for Grit and for the camp day, as Bryan said, but for your future, for your career, and for you just growing as an individual. And Grit has a lot of things coming up that are actually very much for the mentors themselves. So it's definitely worth being a certified mentor at Grit, because we're building things around that.
So when do mentors need to complete the course? So when do they need to complete it by, I guess I should say?
The course, honestly, you can take at any time. Like I said, we want the course is available and it's free. If you contact us, I would take the course. If you know about our course and you're thinking about being a mentor, take it now. And then you will be ready to go whenever a camp comes. If there is a camp in your area and you've already talked to a host, it's going to depend on their date. So if they've planned their camp, their event, maybe 12 weeks out, you've got 3 months. you need to take the course before you can really sign up.
Yeah, and we also encourage, get the quick start guide, print that out, look at the full guide. We're going to give you access to anything that you need to prepare.
And when,
So,
Brian's saying guide, what's the guide, quick start guide, that is all things that once you contact us and we've made contact, we're going to share with you our guide. And we also have it online at our website. We're going to have everything available for you there. It's going to be really easy. You just go, you click, search something, and your quick start guides. It's going to prepare you for the camp, get your head wrapped around the idea of what all of this is even about, walk through the modules. And it's really fun. I mean, this event is super fun, and these camps are awesome. So if this starts sounding like, oh my goodness, I'm getting overwhelmed, it's because it's all fun. Actually, it's fun work. It's focused work, but take the course. If you know about the course right now and you think you might want to be a mentor or a host, take the course.
What happens if a mentor does not complete the requirements prior to the camp?
Grit will contact the host and let them know that while we understand that you wanted to have this person to be a mentor at your event, they're not able to completely be certified. So they're going to need to find someone else. We also will contact the mentor to remind them, give them one more chance. Is like, are you sure you don't want to finish the course so that we can move on and add you to the registration? Or if there is a failed background check to the point of us needing to contact the host, we will let both the mentor and the host know.
What safety planning needs to happen before the camp?
So we have in both our video about our video course, there's some safety things that we address. And it honestly, for the host, it would be helpful to take that course to kind of see even how to set things up. But we have materials that cover our guides, cover all of those things in detail. So we'll have a section. We have a section that you can jump to in the guide because it's a pretty in-depth guide that's just on safety. So you'll want to be prepared for, thinking of torches and saws and, things being stable. You want tables to be stable, and all of those things are going to start connecting once you look through our guide and our course to know how to address safety issues.
Yeah, you need to make sure emergency exits, first aid access.
All the stuff you would do if you run a company already.
Yeah, fire extinguishers, all the things that you already need to be doing for sure. And hey, it's a good opportunity for you to double check your processes and systems for your own business as well. All right, this is my favorite question. So what items do hosts most often underestimate or overlook?
Fastener bits, wrong sizes of very small things sometimes, They didn't get the right solder for the torch they're using. The Fastener bits weren't the right size. The drills don't have batteries, or
battery chargers,
right. That's what I mean. The drills, you didn't bring an extra battery. Not enough extension cords. The Luan backing that we have in our guide and in all of our materials that you attach to the back of the box that students built, that's cut to the right size, that you have them pre-cut, that the 2x4s, one thing I want to mention about the 2x4s is I think standard 2x4s come in 8-foot lengths, or we encourage every student needs to have at least one 2x4 to work with, which is in our materials list. But if you have a smaller space, so if it's kind of a tight space where you have 16 students gathering materials, maybe think about cutting the 2x4s down to 5 or 6 feet. Just a little easier to navigate. Or you can leave them at 8 feet. If you have enough room, that's fine. But it is a little bit of a tricky thing that sometimes the host might not think about beforehand.
Yeah, so enough miter saws with proper clamps on them and stands for them is huge. Enough sturdy tables. Like we said, functional saw clamps and having some other wood clamps available. Correct drill bit sizes is huge. The Forstner bits are, and I don't know, is it Forstner? I don't even know how to say the name of the bit.
I think
properly.
It is Forstner.
I think it's Forstner bit. We've chosen those bits specifically because they're safe and kids can actually use them to do boring. You're going to want to buy those in advance. Get them off of Amazon or Northern Tools or something like that well in advance, because they're hard to source locally in the right sizes. And there are 2 different sizes. There's reasons for that on the plan. And you see that often done incorrectly.
I would say the biggest thing for the host and the host facilitator, is go over your materials list before you think you need to. And go through it with detail. And we're working to make our list and our verbiage more clear, and in a way that makes more sense to the host. So just don't wait till 3 days before to start gathering. Look at go over the list and know what you have, know what you need to get.
Yep. Have a lot of extra safety glasses and extra gloves is a really good idea. Just for the mentors, have extra AA batteries, have bad AA batteries, as well as bad bulbs in addition to the good ones. So we have these little electrical kits, but having some of those available is really, really handy. And the guide goes over that and how to do that and all of that. But those are areas that people often do forget. Customization materials. It's really fun for the kids at the end to be able to add different, googly eyes and, colorful things and markers and all that. And so you can kind of use your imagination on that. That's not prescriptive, but having that available does make it a much more enjoyable experience.
And one thing I like to point out that it's really fun for if you have a volunteer, if you have a person that they're not, by the way, volunteers are not required to do the background checks. So because they're not working directly with the students throughout the day. So only mentors are required for background checks. So any volunteer you have sign up, like a photographer, we're not going to be running, they don't have the same mandates. But we do encourage somebody to be available. It might even be a spouse or a teenage kid that you have that isn't going to be at the camp, to get those little Polaroid cameras, the mini ones, and take pictures of the students doing really exciting things with their mentor. And then laying those pictures out at the end of the throughout the day on a table where the students can go up. They won't even be paying attention to you because they'll be so immersed in brazing or cutting 2x4s with a table saw. But then they get to see them in action. Their mentor is there with them in the picture, and it's something for them to be able to take home and remember the day and the event. So that's one thing that not everybody, you don't have to do this, and it does require having an extra person and a little thought there. But it is a fun thing that some hosts don't necessarily prioritize because it's like, I'm already getting all this stuff. But that is one thing that the students are going to really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Plenty of trash bags, trash containers, markers, tape, labels, anything like that you want to add. But then even just the basics of having some, you're going to have some carpentry pencils, but also have some regular pencils and pens too, so that the way the kids can fill out on their blueprint some of the areas.
So I will just so the host doesn't have to consider like pretty much everything the student outside of tools that the mentors are like introducing them to. Grit will send you the PPE, the pencils, the markers, and pens, but having some extra in case, a mentor also wants to use it is good. But don't worry that they will have the things they need for interacting with the blueprint and the marking and stuff. But having extra is always.
All right, this is a big one. So the whole torch and joining system. So the part where we use fire and we melt metal and we do that part. It's one of the things that kids tend to enjoy the most, because people will ask a lot about, do we have to do this? Obviously, there's going to be some cases where we just can't in certain spaces, certain safety requirements. We're just not going to be able to, but we want to do this as much as possible. But there are different options here, and I think it's important that that you really think through these options.
So, because the brazing and the fire is such an exciting and impactful and a part of the modules, we definitely don't skip this module. But there is a reality to the different types of torches that people use are different to what the mentors are used to using. So you really want to think about what is it that your mentors use? What region of the country are you in? What's normal to be using on service calls? So I would communicate as a host, just think about that, like what type of torch do I want to have at this camp? And then just double check or have multiple options, but double check with your mentors that they do know how to use. So say, for instance, Bryan, like the different, you are more experienced with torches. So like the different types.
Yeah. So MAP gas and propane torches are less expensive. They're easier to work with, but that's really more of a plumbing thing. And so obviously if you have a bunch of plumbers as your mentors, then that makes a lot of sense. Or if you're in a region where that's used more commonly, even certain aspects of HVAC uses those types of torches more often. But you need to have different products. So you need to have a soft solder and you need to have flux. And you need to know how to apply that particular product. That's soldering. Then you have brazing. And again, you can choose any of these depending on what works best for you. If you're brazing, then you need to have either air-acetylene or an oxyacetylene rig, and you need to have one for each station. So you have to have enough of them where you get them from. And sometimes the tradespeople themselves can commit to provide those, so you don't have to buy separate ones. That's often the way we do that, but you have to confirm that with the mentors. And what I suggest doing is doing whatever is most comfortable. Because we often do an aluminum repair section, which is very popular with the kids.
It's an optional.
It's an optional thing, and it's one of my favorites and often the kids' favorites. When you're doing aluminum repair, you cannot use oxyacetylene for that because it's too hot, too high a temperature. And so these are just different factors that you have to consider and you have to think through, because if you show up and you have, for example, just a roll of soft solder and some propane torches, it's not going to work. You need to have proper flux. Everyone needs to know how to do it. And in many cases, if you have, for example, a lot of HVAC technicians as your mentors and they've never really done more of the plumbing soft solder process, they're not going to give the kids a good experience because they don't.
They're struggling because they'll be struggling.
Because they'll be struggling with it, right? Yeah. And so those are just different factors. Whereas if it's plumbers, they're probably not going to know how to do the air-acetylene or the oxyacetylene setup. So.
Well, and I think what's great about like what we really want to encourage for you being the host, like you don't have to have all the options. Just know which one you are going to do and have the people prepared. Have the right materials, and then understand with your mentors that, all right, this is going to work great. Because honestly, if you've got, like Bryan had said, if you have mentors that are used to using the MAP gas and propane, that's going to be easier. It is going to be cheaper. Just make sure you have the right materials, and also recognize you're not going to be able to do necessarily everything you could do with the other types. Yeah. But just pick your one or pick your multiples, and just be prepared with the right materials, and it'll go great either way then.
Yep. Yeah, but there just are considerations.
Yes.
Some need strikers, some need different wrenches to open the tanks, and so those are all things that you're going to have to think through. And we've tried to be prescriptive with this, only do it one way, but we found that that's a challenge because of regionality and
we want this event to be kind of what you want to. Like that is part of what Grit is. So one thing that is always very impressive to me is how the tradespeople, the mentors, and the hosts at these events figure out working through some of these challenges. So if you did forget something, or if something didn't go perfectly, tradespeople are amazing at solving problems. So this isn't about being perfect. We just want to help you be prepared the most that you can be. But even if you think you have everything down and it's all going to go great, there's usually something that comes up, and that's part of the experience, and it doesn't make it a negative experience. Just being prepared and considering a lot of these things supports you as a host.
Yep. And whatever you choose, make sure you have enough. That's the thing. How are grit materials shipped?
So when we confirm with you about hosting, we also ask, you provide us with shipping location, which sometimes is different than the event location. We're going to be asking you for both those things. But Grit ships everything out to you. We also do custom badges for the students and all of the participants. So with their pictures, which when in our registration form, the parents sign the media release. So you don't have to feel like, are we even allowed to take pictures? We're getting personal badges. All of that's communicated with the parents, with minors. But we ship our stuff to you in a box, 1 to 2 weeks before your event. And you'll be providing us with that location. And obviously also if there is a new shipping location, try to remember to update. But we also we'll double check with you. And it's like, is this still the right address to ship our stuff to you?
All right. So generally speaking, camp hosts, what should they expect in terms of costs?
This is one of those very broad answers. A lot of the materials that you use in in these modules are things that a trades company would have. So, or you're used to at least buying them. But this is very specific, and maybe you haven't, sourced some of these materials in a while. So the range of costs can be, it really depends. It really depends on how much you have to go purchase new. And then also with the customization, like the lunch module, where we give you a lot of purchasing links that are optional. So it just depends on how much you want to invest in that. But it's it's definitely an investment of sorts, and thinking about paying for the lunch, and if you have to rent a pavilion or a venue for it. But the cost can range from $1,500 to $5,000, depending on how much you want to put into it.
But there's going to be thousands of dollars involved, right? And I think that's something that you just have to have budgeted for, you have to prepare for. And again, there's going to be a lot of questions about getting local sponsorships or other sponsors and all those things. Those are things that are going to be worked out as Grit continues to evolve and grow. Our goal is to make it reasonable, but it is an investment. It's an investment in your community. And it is something that you can kind of connect to your social giving or your community giving. And that's the way that we would encourage you to look at this if you're planning to host a camp.
Yes. And as far as the lunch goes, a really good idea, and we've had some hosts do this, there's different businesses in your community that are not going to be able to participate in the trades aspect of this event. But if they are excited about you doing it, you could say, hey, go to Chick-fil-A or go to Mama Rita's Pizzeria and say, would you like to sponsor the lunch? Meaning, do you want to give us a lunch for free?
Right.
And that is something that a lot of restaurants and small business owners really, really like doing. They feel like they also connected, and you show them that appreciation. But that's currently how we sponsor a lunch. It's basically the host is saying, hey, who wants to provide a lunch for this event? And make it an engaging conversation. Let them know that what you are investing in is very meaningful and good community work. And then they are also tied to that by providing the lunch. So it's a win-win for everybody there.
Yeah, those are things that you can always do without, you don't have to ask us. Or if you have a local hardware store that wants to donate some of the materials, great. You can just go ahead and do that. And that is a good idea. And again, the more you get ahead of it, the more that you start early, the more likely you're going to be able to allay those costs in that way. What should the host provide for lunch?
So this can be anything from pizza, sub sandwiches, barbecue, baked ziti, Chick-fil-A. There's so many different options, and we want this part to actually be, I would encourage you, keep it kind of simple. Make it yummy, make it delicious, but don't worry too much about it being a complicated spread of food. Just make it, it is kind of nice to sometimes have different temperatures of food, because the kids at lunch, they do get to take temperatures with like a thermal imaging camera. So it is kind of nice to have cold foods and hot foods, and they get to talk about that with Ty or whoever's leading the camp. So consider, a salad and hot chicken sandwiches, or a barbecue, and, the bread will be cooler temperature by the time they get that. So it's really up to you.
Yep. And so, because people ask a lot, all right, what about special dietary requirements or allergies? That comes up quite often.
So one of the things in our registration link, because we do want to kind of get ahead of that question for the host's sake, we do put in our registration for the students, if they are highly allergic, to plan to pack their own lunch, unless you as a host want to provide allergy sensitive foods. If you want to do that, if you want to put in the extra work and the extra communication with that, you're absolutely free to do that. Or maybe you as the host has those allergies, so you would understand that challenge. We encourage you to do that if that's something you want to do, but we don't want to make that a requirement to have allergy sensitive foods for everybody. And so we actually put that responsibility on the parents for the students. If you as an adult have that, then you also are responsible for that.
How can the host receive community value, sort of marketing value from the camp?
Well, similar to what we just talked about with the lunch, when you have people investing as a group together into something like this, it becomes a community event, and people tie that to your business or to your company or to you as an individual, saying this is a giver. This is somebody who gives to the community and gives back. So while it may cost thousands of dollars to do this event, it does actually promote the meaning behind your business, you as an individual, of giving back to others. So there's a lot of ways that bounces off of each other. And also mentors from other parts of the country hear about a contractor that's doing this camp, hosting a camp. That gets them encouraged that you're leading this, you're encouraging mentorship, and even connecting you to other tradespeople throughout the country and encouraging each other in the industry in that way.
Yeah. So schools, chamber of commerce, community organizations, newspapers, radio stations, television, local businesses, those are all people you can reach out to.
Yes.
And see if they want to get involved in some way, or if they want to come, visit the camp or interview some of the people who are at the camp, the mentors, whatever. Those are all things that you're absolutely able to
And
do.
we have had instances where the host reached out to a television station or a newspaper, and they are very excited. Often, not often, but in a few cases, they have come out and interviewed and taken video footage and are so excited even themselves. And that gets into the news about you. So if you want that sort of exposure, we would encourage you to like find somebody who has that connection.
Can parents or visitors attend?
So we don't in our marketing, in our flyers that for invites, and when we talk to you, the host, in our meetings, we actually encourage parents to drop kids off, because this is something that we really want the kids to immerse themselves and to be dedicated to connecting with their mentor about the trades. And sometimes parents, as much as, I mean, I'm a parent, so I know this can happen. We helicopter a little bit. We want to see how good our kid's doing, or, if they're failing, we start feeling a little embarrassed. And that the kid is going to feel that. The student will feel that. And also just give this to your kid. Let the kid really explore, have a day where they are being guided by another adult that does not know them, but is doing meaningful work. So while I never tell a host that you can't have parents stay, even out of the logistics of like space-wise, it just makes more sense that they drop their kids off.
Yeah. So if there is a parent or a visitor that needs to be set up in advance, they need to make sure to wear PPE, and ultimately that's going to be the decision of the host. But it's something that has to be accounted for.
Yeah.
And again, we really don't want people to be interacting with the kids unless they're background checked. So that's another side of it as well. So. All right. So what does a successful grit camp look like?
Oh man, having kids excited about doing some work with their hands, having mentors passionate about the work that they do, having a community of people come together and engage in something that took a lot of investment, time, and planning, and coming away from it feeling really good again about what the trade is all about, the meaningful work behind it, and also just seeing curiosity in both students and adults. That's exciting. When you see eyes light up when they're trying something for the first time, or they failed 4 times and got it on the 5th time, that's worth like so much. It's worth as a host and as a mentor, when you see those moments happen, it builds up a sense of joy, purpose, and excitement about life and about that kids these days actually are really cool and they're curious, and you want to support that.
Passion and preparedness. Those are the 2 things you need to bring. If you bring those 2 things through the whole process, it's going to be really successful. And every camp's been successful, because every camp you have students who feel excited and who had a great day, and you have mentors who came away excited about teaching and mentoring and excited about their trade. And that to me is the most important thing. Some days are going to be easy. Some days are going to be a little bit tougher. But regardless, if we walk away from a camp and that's the experience everybody's had, then that's been a successful camp. Leilani, thank you for all your hard work you and Abby and Ty have put into this. It's really a great thing. And it is a lot of work, but it's good work.
Thank you.